Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I'm joined by the scholars from the Edge of Time, Nicholas Diak and Michele Brittany, and they're about to open the doors to the cinematic past that we all share. Greetings and welcome, oh scholars.
Greetings and welcome, Hercules, and all of our viewers. Yes, thank you very much for the torch. We've got lots to talk about. But do you want to start with
Life stuff?
life stuff real
Yeah,
quick?
play some catch up since last month.
Sure. I'll
Oh.
let you start.
I haven't really been doing anything too prolifically, but we've done some fun stuff. One of the things that Michele and I did is we haven't been to like a big pop culture con since before COVID. When we lived in SoCal, we went to all of them: WonderCon, Anime Expo, Kamikaze / LA Comic Book Con, Long Beach Comic Con. Oh, and the list goes on and on and on. But we haven't been to one since COVID, really. But there's a video game convention they have down here called the Game On Expo, and we went to that about 2 weekends ago. We just went for one day just to kind of check it out, and it was a lot of fun. It was nice to be at a con. It was not super crowded or anything. But I got to meet some, old school 80s video game designers and programmers that I had signed some swag, so I wanted to show some of that off real quick. Um, the first thing I wanted to show off is we met Howard Scott Warshaw. He worked at Atari in the early 80s. He's the one who made the game Yar's Revenge, but he also made the E.T. game, which is the one that caused like the great video game crash of the 80s.
Yes, I remember.
But I had him sign my Atari game. It's a compilation of old Atari games. And I bought his book, and this is what's going to be kind of funny. He wrote a book called Once Upon Atari. And what he does is, since he created the game Yar's Revenge, to kind of backstep, many, many years ago, we met Reb Brown at a convention, and Reb Brown is in the movie You're the Hunter from the future, and we love Yor. And Reb Brown signs his movies, yours truly, which is funny. So my copy of your stuff is signed by him, yours truly. Howard Scott Warshaw signs his stuff, not yours truly, because he made Yar's Revenge. He signs his stuff, yours truly. I have to show that because I think that's hilarious and I love it. And I'm a sucker for stuff like that.
That is awesome.
And I think the one other thing I want to show off, I got a couple things signed, but I can't get to everything right now. But is we met Brian Collin. He's the guy who created the video game Rampage, the one with like the King Kong and the Godzilla that climb the buildings and punch everything. But I had a copy of the game Spy Hunter, and he worked on Spy Hunter, so he signed my copy of Spy Hunter. So those are like my two super old school treasures that got signed at the video game convention. And yeah, so it was a lot of fun. We definitely are going to go back next year, go a couple days, see some of the panels, see the museum and all that cool stuff.
Yeah, because they have a video game museum. Is that correct? Yeah, so we didn't get to see that this time. We just went for one day to kind of check it out. I was actually really pleased. I mean, I do like playing video games, but I also was kind of looking for other cultural type products and interactions, and so it was actually a nice con to go to. It was
a lot of art stuff there.
Yeah, there was actually quite a bit of art stuff. Very enjoyable. It was the Phoenix Convention Center down kind of the lower level. So instead of everything being really packed, they did spread out, which was nice. So I did feel like comfortable in there. And then they had a lot of media guests related to a lot of the video games. So I know you had some stuff signed that way.
They had all these voice actors there and actresses, and basically it was basically an anime con because all the folks they had there either did video game work or anime work or both.
Yeah. For me, I think probably my big update is the Mummy 1999 movie. book that I'm co-editing with another colleague. We got feedback from our two reviewers. I probably have mentioned that before. We needed to provide a revision plan because the publisher is still very, very interested after the feedback we got. We just need to make some updates and work with our writers a little bit. So working on that. So we have a new kind of timeline for that. So I'll be working on that over the next few months. I know because we did do a push, I'm hoping to maybe next month spend maybe a few minutes of our scholars to talk about the new Universal release from, do you remember? Was it Image? No, IDW. Well, anyway, there is a
You're the
new,
mummy expert.
I know, I just can't remember who put it out right at the moment, but there's a new Mummy series based on the Universal monsters. And so right now they're releasing, it's a 4-issue arc of the Mummy. And this time the story is told more from the viewpoint of Helen from the original 1932 film. So looking forward to actually having a chance to talk a bit more about that. But that'll be in the next month or two when I'll talk a bit more about that. Anyway, back to you.
I think the last thing I have is, still writing at my website. I did a review on a comic book series called Vanya, the Warrior Hunter. I have to censor it because there's boobies. It's basically a Jungle Girl comic, but it's sci-fi. She's in the prehistoric past fighting dinosaurs and stuff. It's like Sheena, but our Bud Roots Cave Woman, our female Tarzan type comic. And it's not pretty. It's pretty good. It's trying to accomplish a lot of things, though, being both set in the future and the past, and time traveling, and dinosaurs, and cyberpunk stuff, and booby. There's nudity in it. But that's the newest review at my website. I got a stack of comics that I'm trying to get through, and I'm trying to get those posted at my website. So that's kind of the newest thing that's out. I do have there's a Tarzan / Edgar Rice Burroughs journal out there called the National Capital Panthans Journal, and they're republishing a lot of my stuff, including the Vanya reviews I'm doing, but all my old Edgar Rice Burroughs comics I did reviews for and stuff. So they've been reprinting all that stuff. So that's cool. And now I have new stuff coming out that's going to be concurrent for them and my website.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have an opportunity to perhaps contribute an article or multiple articles to another kind of Edgar Rice Burroughs unofficial. I can't remember the name.
Same thing. It's the National Capital Panthans Journal.
Yeah. So I have an old issue of a Tarzan, and it includes a pharaoh and some mummies. So I'm going to write an article about that and how it relates with, our tropes with mummies and things like that. So the editor is actually, interested in, receiving that, as well as kind of discussing some of the older Tarzan comics. So I think that might be a nice venue to write and not have it to be high stakes. I don't have a ton of time right now, so that kind of works with my schedule. All right.
That's it for me.
Yeah. All right. So should we dive on in? Where the shark infested waters?
Well, before we start,
okay.
So tonight's discussion will be over the Neo Peplum movie Gladiator 2. We caught this in theater back in December, and then it just came out on Blu-ray like a month ago, so pluck that up, just rewatched it. But we can't talk about Gladiator 2 without first acknowledging the Gladiator 2 popcorn bucket. So I have a Coliseum popcorn bucket that has a QR code that if you scan it with your phone, it'll actually show 2 people fighting in the arena. If I didn't have dinner already, I would totally have filled this up with popcorn and very messily snacked on this as we were talking. So I didn't do that, obviously. But merchandising, the Gladiator 2 Coliseum popcorn bucket will be right
Back to
here.
ancient Rome.
What's that?
That'll bring you right back to ancient Rome.
Yeah, I mean,
You're feeling it, right?
I mean,
Hercules?
it even says bring the Colosseum to life. This is living history. This is we're practically there in ancient Rome.
We just need the helmet.
We just need help. You know what I'll do?
Because
I will hold this up for viewers if they want to scan it with their phone and watch people duel for a minute. There you go.
You can get small plastic rhinos and sharks and things like that and put them
Well,
in.
put
That'll
it in there.
further
That's,
the immersion.
yeah.
Well, I've got those really old school what are they I forget what company, the Warriors of the World line of figures. So bing 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 bing.
There you go. I'm transported back in time and I'm there right in the Colosseum in the stands.
So let's enter the arena and talk about Gladiator 2.
Let's do it.
All right. Ooh, I got a lot of plot.
Okay.
All right.
It's a lot longer than I was gonna say.
You're just gonna say Gladiator 1.
Yeah, pretty much.
16 years after the events of Gladiator, Rome is still just as corrupt under the twin emperors Geta and Caracalla. General Cassius leads the Roman army to the northern African state of Numidia, sieging a port city with his armada. Hanno leads the Numidians in their defense, but ultimately loses. One of the casualties is his wife Arishat, who is killed by Acacius's bow. Hanno and other surviving Numidian soldiers are branded and taken away to be sold as slaves. Acacius returns to Rome and is greeted by the twin emperors who want him to continue to wage more wars to conquer new lands for Rome. Acacius, though, has had enough, and he plots to overthrow the twins with the help of his army that is loyal to him and his wife Lucilla, who is the sister of Commodus from Gladiator 1. Hanno arrives in Ostius and establishes himself as a capable fighter and is bought as a gladiator by Marcrinius. Marcrinius begins his own schemes to seize power in Rome via wagers over gladiator duels and information gathering. Hanno wins battles in the arena, and his mannerisms on the field attract the attention of Lucilla, who realizes that Hanno is really her son, Lucius Verus, who is also the son of Maximus. Lucilla asks Acacius to rescue Hanno, but the rescue effort is thwarted, and Acacius and Lucilla are arrested. Marcrinius suggests Acacius is put in the arena to fight against Hanno, who wants nothing more than to kill Acacius, as he's the one who killed his wife Arishat. The two battle, but Acacius surrenders to Hanno, saying he knows who his mother and father are. Hanno is stymied and doesn't strike down Acacius, so the emperors order the Praetorian guards to shoot him with arrows. This causes the citizens of Rome to riot. Macrinius makes his political maneuvers and has Caravala kill Geta. Macrinius ascends the ranks and gains influence. His next plan: put Lucilla in the arena so she can be killed along with Hanno, ending Marcus Aurelius's bloodline and allowing Macrinius to become the new emperor. Lucilla is out in the arena along with other senators who will be killed by the Praetorians, with only Hanno to stave them off. However, Hanno has started a gladiator uprising, and all his comrades rush the arena. Concurrently, Acacius's army arrives outside the gates of Rome. In the melee, Macrinius shoots Lucilla with an arrow and flees the city. Hanno gives chase, and the two will duel it out at the gateway of Rome under the statue of the she-wolf. The two clash in a nearby stream, but ultimately Hanno is victorious by slashing Macrinius's arm off and fatally wounding the stable master turned politician. Hanno gives an inspired speech that everyone should look forward to a new, free Rome. He visits the arena where his mother and father were slain and has visions of the Elysian fields.
Nicely done.
Michele! Yeah, no snark. Michele! overall opinion of Gladiator 2.
I would say visually stunning, particularly like the opening credits. I really like the animation drawings, watercolor. Some very good small battles. However, I think that it is a rehashing of Gladiator 1 with a slightly different ending. So I question how much we needed a Gladiator 2, quite honestly. And I'm sure there's a lot of historical issues with the film as well. Yeah, I've now sat through it twice. And there are some highlights, but generally speaking, I don't think I need to watch this again.
Usually it's Michele that's more positive and mine more the negative person. I have to give this 2 different ratings. So for me, overall, as a neo-peplum film and a neo-peplum film only, I think it's pretty good. It's exciting. There's lots of spectacle. There's lots of homages to classic sword and sandal tropes. I am here for it. But like Michele, as a sequel to Gladiator, it's really bad. Mostly because the plot has to like twist and contort and retcon itself to continue the Gladiator story, which doesn't really need continuation. I mean, it was pretty good by itself. And we're in the era of the legacy sequel where let's make a movie 20 years after we made the other movie and try to bring in the cast that are basically cobweb mummies and pay a lot of fan service with no substance. And I think Gladiator 2 is one of those from Ghostbusters to Star Wars to Indiana Jones to a lot of those. It's just one of those films. So
Wasted opportunity.
wasted opportunity is a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But well, I guess let's dive into it proper. It's a neo-peplum film, and that's kind of my forte. And I think it looks good as a neo-peplum film. I don't think we've had a good neo-peplum film look this great since the 2000s and the 2010s. Michele said small battles. And I would say that this movie should have gone Ben-Hur and really doubled down on the battles, because the battles they do have are pretty good.
Yeah, particularly the opening, where Nick said in the plot about Acrisius storming one of the northern African cities. And that's actually pretty impressive. I
Big
was
Armada
impressed.
coming in.
Yeah, and then there's lots of small battles, and then at the climax of the film, you've got like 2 huge armies coming to face off. And I mean, I guess that is supposed to underscore the importance of the peace that is brokered at the end.
They should have fought. They should have fought. Come on.
But I feel like, wow, you had all those people out there and no battling. So
it is kind of weird that you could go back to the 60s and see huge, large scale battles. I mean, we watched the what was the Yul Brynner one? The religious one that we watched.
oh, I don't remember the name of it now.
I can't remember, but huge battles in it. The one where they hold up the mirrors and drive everyone off the edge of the cliff and all that stuff. Yeah, no huge battles in this, but that's okay. It's an arena film. It's a lot of 101 on 101 mini battles. And there's some cool ones. They fight evil looking baboons, a warrior that rides a rhinoceros. They fill the arena with water and have 2 ships fight in it with man-eating sharks. Now, I'm pretty sure in historic Rome they didn't like capture sharks and wheel them back to Rome and took care of them like SeaWorld. I'm pretty sure none of that happened, but darn it, if the spectacle doesn't look cool to see, people falling off boats and getting stabbed by arrows and a man-eating shark comes and gets them, rah, 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 I'm for it. It looks cool. It's exciting. And then yeah,
And it underscores the idea of the
the
spectacle.
spectacle.
Mhm.
You know, the same spectacle that you need to watch with your popcorn bucket.
There you go.
If anything, they needed more of that. The movie is called Gladiator, and I think it actually probably had slightly more Gladiator action than Gladiator 1. But like the big battle that should have been between Hano and Acacius, that should have been like a big brawling cumulative fight 101. Hano, who's been lusting for revenge for the last hour and a half, has 30-second showdown with him, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, this should have been a battle of the Titans here.
And that feeling of tension,
Mhm.
internal conflict, you just don't get that. I think that we'll get to performances, but it feels like there's a lack of emotion and engagement in that battle.
And
At
there
least
should
on
be
the
a lot.
Yeah, you should have been really feeling the tension, and the weightiness of this showdown, and it's not there.
Yeah, there's other movies that have pulled off where the lead protagonist, whose adversary is also kind of a good guy,
Mhm.
and you basically have two good guys fighting each other, and we've seen that before, and those are you could do something cool with the narrative, and who's right, who's wrong, who's bad, who's good, who do you root for? What if the supposed bad guy who's really a good guy wins? What does that mean? There's a lot of conflict, and that's not just physical conflict, but emotional conflict that's supposed to play out in that for the characters, for the audience and stuff. And the movie
I
the
felt
movie zags when it should zing for those types of stuff.
Yeah, it feels like they end up getting kind of downplayed.
Mhm.
Like you do have some good performances that kind of try to elevate the emotional, but it almost feels like the direction they were given kind of underscores and downplays, and there's almost like it's almost too subtle. It's kind of like you need to have more power, more punch with those type
Mhm.
of scenes, because there's a lot of political intrigue going on, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of back and forth, and I think that's a good statement. It really should have zinged instead of zagged, and that kind of thing.
I'm in agreement with you. There were two parts to the movie that disappointed me. One was when, after denying that he's who he is, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I know who I am.
Yes,
Yeah.
you were
It
not.
happened too suddenly.
Yeah.
And then also the fact that there's a room where gladiators whose names were erased from history, they honor them, and nobody knows about it. And the Max
Mhm.
his armor was there, so I was kind of disappointed. I feel that both of those could have been handled, much more powerfully. There was potential for power there, but they didn't. They let it pass.
We'll get
Yeah.
into both of those scenes because you are 100% correct.
Yep.
Wasted opportunities. I think a lot of it boils down to our new Russell Crowe, which is Paul Mescal. Um, but before we get into like his acting real quick, because that's kind of a weird bag, I do want to point out because we usually we talk about Peplum films, we talk
Mhm.
about the body.
Yeah.
Like Russell Crowe, Paul Mescal, he's a fit guy, but he's not a strong man. He's not a Conan. He's not an Arnold. He's not a Rock. But he's fit. He's strong. He's just not a strong man. But the movie is extremely fixated on his body, which is that's what a sword and sandal strongman film is. You fixate on the body, but no one else in the film is shirtless. He is 90% shirtless through this entire film, unless he's in the arena with some little bit of armor on. And even that, like when he's fighting baboons and stuff, that's suspect. They go all out. There's no other nudity, there's no boobies, there's no other shirtless people. Everyone else is either clothed or armored. They go all in on elevating Paul Mescal's gladiator body in this, which is again, it's not uncommon. That's a feature of the genre, but they triple dog dare down on this. They put him in bathtubs. They
Oh, yeah, that's right, they do.
they do everything they can to say, look at this stud. And he's not like a bad looking guy or anything, but
No,
you,
he's attractive and he has very striking eyes, which I think, was trying to capitalize. I think that, and I know we'll touch on this a lot, but I think Ridley Scott really tried to make connections, really tried to shoehorn in all the new components with the original film, to the detriment of this film.
and that I think you're 100% correct. So aside from the fixation on Paul Mescal's body, which side note, even Russell Crowe didn't get that treatment in Gladiator 1. Russell Crowe's a good-looking guy in Gladiator 1. He's not running around shirtless in that film.
No,
He's
that's
armored
true.
through that entire film, but they put all the stakes on Mescal, and they do it to such an extent that his character is supposed to be the son of Maximus, which, side note, that's not in the first movie. They made that up for this one. In the first movie, Maximus has a wife and his own kid. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, I guess at some point he had sexy time with Lucilla and had a secret son that's was in the first movie, but one by doing that, it kind of I think downplays Russell Crowe's fidelity to his wife and son. Even if that
Yeah.
may have been a common practice back then, I don't know. But as us as contemporary audience,
Yeah.
it lessens the impact of Russell Crowe's character who wanted nothing more just to get back to his farm in Spain with his wife and kid, and all of a sudden now he has secret kid with secret other one, which they had to retcon that to make this movie work, but at a detriment to I think the character of Russell Crowe.
Yeah, and there's
Mhm.
even a scene in there talking about like the age of Joaquin Phoenix character and Lucia and
Connie Nelson's.
yeah, what what was the ages and stuff, and they were really trying to like basically say, oh well, Joaquin Phoenix was really young, is he really the dad?
Mm.
And it's really questioning that. I hadn't thought about the fidelity, but yeah, Russell Crowe's character had morals and ethics, and he was a representation of this ideal dream of Rome, and Rome for all the people, not just the Senate and the emperors.
And with that, not only is it a disservice to Russell Crowe, I think, but since they go all out on Mescal, they are pushing for Mescal to be the new Maximus in this film. He
Mhm.
copies his mannerisms, his cadence, his look at the end of the movie where he goes into the secret gladiator chamber and dons Maximus's army and goes out into the field. For all purposes, he's not the son of Maximus. He is a carbon copy of Maximus.
Mhm.
And one that's crappy for the audience because you're trying to shoehorn an iconic character into someone else, and that just doesn't quite work. And then two, and probably more importantly, I think it robs Mescal's character of Hano of having his own, call it destiny, his own goals, dreams, or whatever. And you see that all his like hopes kind of get not shoehorned, sidelined away. Like his driving force, like the death of his wife, he quickly like forgets about it all the time. We're reminded occasionally, but as soon as like he gets his revenge on Acacius, that just goes out the door. He's avenged his wife. There's still an hour of the movie left. What does this character do? We got to put him into the other B plot. How do we do that? And it's just at the cost of him being what should be an interesting character that has his own things, but due to direction and stuff, they just wanted Maximus 2.0.
Yeah, he really doesn't have his own agency, and I mean the setup when he's captured is actually pretty good, and if he was truly set on revenge for the death of his wife, great. But then the whole him having to be Lucius, that comes back to Rome, the whole issue with the fact that his mom didn't call him back, it's through circumstances as an adult, just feels that he doesn't have his agency, And if we're talking about performances, he doesn't have an opportunity to perform outside of the Maximus box. And I think that's a detriment to Mescal, who is probably a fine actor, but it feels two-dimensional. And it's unfortunate because I think I was looking him up last night. I mean, he's stage actor. I mean, obviously he knows his stuff, but it's really hard to get a gauge on his skill and talent as an actor because he's been directed. You have to be Maximus in this, and even his voice, like you said earlier, his mannerisms, it robs him of an opportunity to create um, a new character. And as like Nick was saying earlier, this would have been this is a good, entertaining neopeplum. If it had had its own storyline too, you would have had all the elements. But because Scott was trying to basically bring it all together, he robbed a lot of that opportunity to really create like maybe a new franchise and have another Gladiator film that takes place, 2 years in the future. And what does Rome look like at that point? Has Hanno been able to, do what he's wanted to do as far as bringing Rome back into the fold and into those ideals?
You could have a gladiator film where he's not the son of Maximus. He comes into the arena through other means. He wants to be there on purpose or something. He's in there because of the exact same reasons Maximus is in there. I do want to preface this by saying that a peplum sequel, our air quote sequel, either or, is not like uncommon. If you think back to the 60s, there was a lot of them, such as Son of Spartacus, Son of Samson, Son of El Cid, Son of D'Artagnan, Son of Hercules. You can do it. That's the thing is, were those movies great? Maybe, maybe not. They're fun. You could do a Gladiator 2, and you could do a Son of Maximus if you wanted to. I mean, well, they did. And it could actually work. It just didn't work in this one. I think if they made Hanno not as a carbon copy of Maximus, maybe something like you said has a little bit more turmoil, because this is a guy in theory in this movie he's dealing with the death of his wife, supposed to be coming to terms that he's the son of a great influential general who's just refound his mom, who's also a slave, and this is a lot to juggle. You can do something with this, and the movie flatlines all of that, and that's the big shame in this film. You can have all the cool spectacle and everything, but that's the heart of the film, and barf. um and also not just Mescal, but the other major actors in this film are underutilized. They bring back Connie Nielsen, which I made the mistake of calling her Bridget Nielsen while we were watching it last night. And Michelle's like, it's not Bridget Nielsen, it's Connie Nielsen. I'm like, that's right, Bridget Nielsen's Red Sonja. Red Sonja would not put up with this tomfoolery. She would have slashed everyone's throats and saved the day. But like, she spends the entire movie sobbing or on the verge of tears, just letting things unfold around her, and she doesn't do anything. She's just there to basically connect the two movies together, but she doesn't really have any agency, and she's just there to sob.
And the agency that she does have, because she is working with the Senate and she's working with her husband Acacius to try to overthrow the emperors. And so she does have a small amount, but it's again wasted and kind of brushed to the side. Arasat, so like I'm thinking of the women in the film. So we have Lucia, who is primarily the one on the screen. I'm sorry, Lucilla, sorry. She's primarily our female character. Then we have Arasat, who is Hano's wife. She is also a warrior. So you have a strong female, and she dies in the battle, which is unfortunate. You know, it would have been great to know more about her. And I mean, Scott could have kind of built up that whole story and been around Hano and his wife for a bit, so that way there could have been more time with some of these different females. The only other female that I'm thinking of is the maid, who is a turncoat and is a spy in their household. And so, you know, I feel like you kind of get a very flatline representation of women in this film.
Wait. So you don't know the Moon Knight lady thing? Oh no. So the lady who played in Moon Knight, the show, who played the main lady.
Mhm.
Help me out here.
I don't remember her name, but I know who you're talking about.
She played the main superhero lady in Moon Knight. She was supposed to be in this film. They shot scenes of her and everything. She was supposed to be like a conspirator or has the ear of or an accomplice of Denzel Washington's character. And then they cut all her scenes out.
I wonder why.
I'm ticked about that, because that would have
They
been
were supposed to be. It was
interesting.
supposed to be a big deal. Apparently that she was going to be in this, and then they cut her all out. And some people.
That's unfortunate, because I felt as a female viewer that, other than seeing Mascal with his shirt off, which was, you know, yeah, okay, but you know, I'm wanting to be, I want to be entertained,
Uh-huh.
and I want a good storyline delivery. And you know, I also want good representation of women, and this movie fell short. Sorry, it did.
Not to defend it. To be
But-
fair,
but
but
go
to
for
be
it.
fair, you know, mostly the Gladiator films are dudes. They're all pretty
But-
dude centric.
2025.
2025. The last female centric Gladiator movie I could think of was The Arena, done by the director of Daywatch or Night Watch.
Oh,
Performance?
Timov Bekna.
yeah, the Russian director. Yeah.
No, you're correct. You're correct. You know, better representation, obviously. In a movie like Gladiator 2, especially where, you know, I hate to go. No, I have to go the route. It's the trope of, you know, women in the fridge or whatever, that saying that came from the comics, where
Yeah.
to motivate a character to do something, you kill off the lady character, and it came from some comic where they shoved the lady in a refrigerator.
Yeah, and
I think it was
yeah.
Peter Parker's wife or something.
Yeah, I just feel like, you know, that was a good use of women in the film. And, you know, this is 2025. I think there could have been more there.
Well, like with like Connie Nielsen's character, the
Mhm.
position that she's in could have been, like, I hate to say a separate movie, but in theory it could have been. That could have been a more toga and sandal film, and you would have gone the route of like a movie like Messalina, or you know, one of those films from the 60s where it focused in on the intrigue and women that, you know, hold power in court and, you know, either seduce or political maneuvering, you know, the various Helena Troy films out there. The Connie Nelson's character is in the position to have that. She doesn't get that. She gets little tiny specks of it, and it is because you have to go all in on the Maximus proxy. I get it. I don't necessarily, because again, in more capable hands, and that's unfortunate to say that about Ridley Scott, because Ridley Scott has given us some great movies.
Yeah.
He's given us some. He's given us some turds, but he's given us some great movies. And this is one of those where she is a wasted character who could have had more agency and more to do. And not just her, but her husband, Pedro Pascal, who is like the biggest name out there right now. You cannot turn your head without seeing Pedro Pascal. And I don't mean that as a bad thing, because I think Pedro Pascal rules.
I think it's cool. Yeah, I do too.
But even his character, who is supposed to be, you know, the primary enemy of Hano's character, he doesn't even really do anything. He shows up, he gives, you know, the speech of, I'm tired of fighting. I'm one of those Rommel type characters of where I'm the
Mhm.
good soldier that fights for the bad people. And, he makes one rescue attempt, but other than that, you should see more from his perspective because, again, it gets down to that scene where him and Hano are fighting. You should have a good chunk of time on both characters so that one-on-one battle carries a huge weight to it. And they don't give it to him, and then they squander the rest of it.
Well, they don't give it to Hano,
Mhm.
either, and then, I mean, it's Saint Sebastian, imagery, with regards to Acacius, being shot with arrows from all over the place. So he looks like a martyred saint. And I don't know, knowing Scott, I mean, and his kind of, I don't know, his exploration of religious things, maybe there's something there with regards to that imagery. But yeah, again, wasted, because I was excited that Pedro Pascal was in this because he has been in other stuff. I've really enjoyed him um in other movies, and I was really sad that he didn't have more in this, that it just didn't come together for a 2.5 hour movie. This could have been really tight. It could have been a great story because it definitely had visuals. It just not delivering on story.
Now, the
He was
last
a general and very powerful, and he had an army that was loyal to him.
Yeah.
And he had to give up that whole thing that he had planned with the army coming into the city to personally rescue Hanno. And I found that too. That was like a long
Yeah,
stretch.
and Michelle even called out like, "Why are you there?" I'm like, "To get captured, duh." The plot
Because I'm like,
dictates it.
he would not have gone. His men would have gone to do that.
Right.
But yeah, exactly. We're all in agreement on
And
that
of
one.
course, his well-skilled men probably should have realized, hey, we're going into this tunnel and there's areas above us that people can shoot at us. Maybe we should, do secret ninja, well-trained warrior stuff like an army people should do and cover our areas of
They
egress.
should have been doing Assassin's Creed, sneakiness going on there. That's what they should have done. But
And of course, it's in a weird sort of way, it's all for naught because at the end of the movie, the doctor character is like, "Here's my keys," and everyone just escapes anyway, unfettered. Um,
yeah,
Now, the last character, and I think Michelle and I will not see eye to eye on this one, is Denzel Washington's character. Um, I'm I'm mixed boat here. I can't tell if I like his performance or if I hate his performance. Whatever it is a performance, and it is like watching when we talked about the Tartars with
Laurence Olivier.
no, who's the guy that directed Citizen Kane?
Oh, Orson Welles.
Orson Welles.
Yes. Sorry.
Like Orson Welles brings a performance, right, wrong, or indifferent. There's a performance, and Denzel Washington is bringing the Orson Welles, even so much that like his ending battle of Hano is basically him fighting Victor Mature in the Tartars. They duel it out in a stream and stuff. That did not go unnoticed by me, but Russell Crowe, not Russell Crowe, Denzel Washington is over the top, and it's kind of anachronistic, but on the other hand, that sometimes is okay. Like if you watch a movie like what's that movie you like with the really good soundtrack that's old? Plunkett McLean. You can bring anachronisms back, and that kind of works. I
Mhm.
think my issue with Denzel Washington's character is for the first hour and a half film, he's the Oliver Reed character, which is fine. But when they resolve the Hano slash Pedro Pascal story very anticlimactically, you need a new villain from somewhere. And all of a sudden, out of the shadows, with just out of nowhere, Denzel Washington now is the main antagonist, and he has somehow or another really quickly become basically the Emperor of Rome that fast, and it's so out of nowhere. And it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's just one of those super rushed things that it's a lot of blubbery or what's the term?
Bolsterous.
we'll say that, bolsterous with nothing behind it, I guess. I don't
Hot air.
hot air, I guess. And the thing is, I like Denzel Washington. Side note, even though Russell Crowe wasn't in this film, he is in it through archive footage. But Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe were in a movie together in the 90s called Virtuosity, and that movie ruled. I will stand by that campy movie as awesome. Um, I know you did not like Denzel Washington in this film.
I did not. The first time I saw it, I absolutely hated his performance. I mean, really, really hated it.
It's very swaggery.
Yeah, and this time I get that he is building himself up because he quotes a couple times Marcus Aurelius about the fact that basically, you know, you know your enemy and you become the opposite of your enemy. But to me, I feel that that's wrong. I mean, it's not wrong, but I think Washington's character becomes what he's supposed to not become. And I have a big problem with that.
I think it adds to his hypocrisy. He thinks he's not
Yes.
becoming his. I think that's
probably the way to play it, but
how you get there.
yeah. The other thing is that as I was watching his performance, I noticed that he's always moving. Now, I don't know if I know you know.
I know where you're going
But
with
I
this.
don't know if you know Hercules, but in the commentary for the Magnificent Seven, Steve McQueen would always do something, you know, move his hat, do this, you know, adjust his clothes in every scene. That way, no matter who else you were looking at, you always came to him. And I honestly believe that is what Denzel Washington did in this film. And it drove me absolutely bonkers.
He is way over the top, steals every scene he's in, and by forcibly stealing the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get the, you know, when you resolve something halfway through, you have to bring in some sort of new enemy. I get that. And I do see the building blocks that's kind of transpiring through the first half where he becomes the main villain to you know, the Rome as an empire that he's trying to create anarchy and to basically destroy everything because he doesn't want to rebuild Rome. And you know, I get that. I just think that maybe one, his performance is over the top. Two, I'm not sure he's the right person actually to have been this character. I'm actually thinking that maybe it should have been another actor out there. I didn't believe he wasn't believable to me. I think at the end of the day, I just don't think that him as that character really worked for me. And because I have been really struggling to reconcile his performance, his character, and the movie with him in it. And I do kind of feel like I think I would have liked to have seen somebody else in that role to see how they would have performed and see if it would have been a bit different. But as it stands with Denzel Washington, and I really that is one of the elements that I really did not like with this film.
And that's where I'm 50-50. I can't tell if it's a crazy way to go and son of a gun, you pulled it off. I don't like it, but you pulled it off. Or go for a more subdued character that's a bit more scheming and cunning. Well, the word I was looking for was bluster. That's what I meant to go for.
Bluster, yeah.
He's kind of blustering, and I don't know if it's pompous is the right word, but he is thematic. The way he talks, carries himself, walks, his gestures. He is in a way, he's putting on a show within a show. He definitely wants to be perceived a certain way, and maybe that's one of the reasons why he is so. I don't know if flamboyant's the right word, but again, I can't tell if it's good or bad. And that's what kind of frustrates me is it's nebulous.
And I think actually, as you're speaking about that, I think the fact that he is so that versus everybody else, which are kind of two-dimensional, I think that's where it doesn't work for me, is the fact that he's playing it this, and everybody else has been like kind of told play two-dimensional, or whatever their notes have been play it here, and he's way up here.
That's
And I think
not
that
a bad
that's
way to
wh-
put it.
that's where I really struggle, that I don't think the performances match each other. I think that if you even like I think the emperors who are got face paint on, and they're kind of they've
effeminate.
got effeminate, they're kind of crazy. I'm sorry to use that word. I know that's not politically correct, but I think that there's some mental challenges. We know that the one twin is actually, Greta Geta says that, some sort of disease
Syphilis.
is eating his brain, and that kind of explains his almost kind of infantile, but they're both kind of weird and crazy. But I don't think their performance is not up here. It's probably a little bit higher than the rest, which it has to be, but it definitely doesn't match with Denzel Washington, I think.
Their performance to me is nothing new. I mean, we've seen that with like Malcolm McDowell and Caligula. It's
Oh yeah.
to be a a crazy emperor Rome is
Mhm.
that's just your standard issue job. And you know what? Going by what you're saying, there may be some truth that where everyone else is given two-dimensional direction because they're archetypes, they're not much to dealt with, and Denzel Washington and maybe is
He also
trying to be a 3D character in a 2D film, and maybe that's what's causing it to feel off.
Yeah, and I think because he's not having to be shoehorned in and kind of structured from the first one, he has a lot more freedom than many of the other characters that are trying, our main characters that are trying to be shoehorned in and trying to basically create a smooth transition between the original Gladiator film and two. Before we close up, because I know we're getting towards the end of the hour, I do want to make a special mention to one actor who I feel uh, gets an opportunity to kind of make a delivery and has actually, I think, good scenes with Hano, and that is the character Robbie.
He has the more emotional moments in the film, and you don't even get his past really.
Yeah, you get very little past other than he had been a gladiator, he had put down his sword, he became basically the resident doctor. I really kind of equated him to, if you go to Alien 3 and Charles Dance character, who had been a prisoner and now he's the doctor. And I kind of equated with Ravi with that kind of to a degree. And I think he plays it really well. He's not overstated, but every scene that he's in, he brings everything to it. And I just have to call out his performance because I felt like he had room to maneuver like Denzel Washington did, but he doesn't overplay it. And I think he's one of the characters that I really liked from this film.
He brings chemistry to scenes that normally don't have a chemistry because the other half isn't bringing the chemistry.
Yeah.
He's kind of, if I had to put it, if you had to shoehorn him in, he's kind of a combination of like the Ralph Moeller Gladiator from Gladiator 1 and the Jubai character from Gladiator 1 kind of merged together into one
Mhm.
thing. That's kind of one of the other things that the film's lacking is all the other gladiators, they all rally behind Hanno, but you don't really get
You don't
too
get
much with them. Now,
mm-mm.
that was kind of the case with Gladiator 1, but they sprinkled a bit more of what are the other gladiators up to with like, the
Mhm.
Trubai and Ralph Moeller and some other ones. So there's that helps like the camaraderie in the first one, while the second one is, hey, guess what, everyone? I'm gonna lead a gladiator revolt. Who's with me? Yeah, we're all with you. Really? I mean, I get it, but where's the journey where
Yeah.
you gain everyone's respect. they tip that, you know, when he bites the baboon and they all make fun of him and he kind of plays along with it, but they don't do more with that to like have Hano establish himself as a leader. I will say this before we end up. The the movie Gladiator 1 and Gladiator 2, they follow the same beats. I will give Gladiator 2 credit for this, is both movies open the same way. The Roman army is attacking the equivalent of the barbarian army. And Ridley Scott gives an empowered speech and his army goes and crushes it. In this one, Hanno gives an empowered speech and gets soundly defeated. And you know what? I'm here for that. That's the type of stuff that you need to be doing is you're trying to, if you're going to wink and nudge but do something else, that's the way to do it. You know, you form your own movie, your own why people are doing what. You have a little bit of fun by, instead of shoehorning in these legacy stuff into your movie to make it work, you instead go the other route on it.
Yeah.
If Gladiator 2 had done more of that type of stuff, it would have helped immensely.
Okay, so I'm going to recreate a scene. The gods have spoken. Then sorry, I had to do
You
it.
did that well.
Give it a thumbs up. I give it a thumbs up for Neopeplum. I give it a thumbs down for a sequel.
I would actually agree with that. I would say as a sequel, no. If you just want to be entertained and really try to leave out the legacy and trying to do all this other type of agenda to create it as a sequel, and yeah, then it's fine.
I think they should have shown, if they were planning on a sequel long term, shown a baby leaving the palace by a hidden way, and then you focus on that at the end of the
Yep, I like that. I like that.
coming in 20 years.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
about
our
it.
story.
We're at the top of the hour.
Our bit. So with that, Hercules, we will pass the torch back to you.
Thank you for a wonderful show, as always. And how can people find you and enter your respective and mutual universes?
Well, I'm easy to find. You just have to scan a QR code in your Gladiator bucket, which will bring you to my website, which is at nickdiak.com.
I wish that would have been great. I've not been on social media a whole lot. I've been actually busy with work stuff. But if you want to see prior episodes where we've had scholars from the Edge of Time, definitely take a look at Nick's website. I do have a website of my own. I do have Facebook. I just haven't been on there a whole lot. Just haven't had a lot of time.
Thank you so very much. Before we wrap up, I would like to invite you both to a new project. I know your schedules are very busy, but maybe we work something out with our scheduling. I'm bringing back a show that it used to be called Hercules Today. Then it was called Legends of Hercules. Now I'm calling it Pop Culture Pantheons. So it's going to deal with how ancient mythologies get translated through popular culture into different media that we have today that preserve and continue and mutate these stories. So I'd love to invite both of you, again, either together or separately, to be guests on that.
Oh,
Ooh.
definitely. Yeah, I would very much like to do that.
Well, thank you. I'm greatly honored. And again, success in all your ventures. And it was awesome talking to both of you.
It was great seeing you, and we look forward to seeing you next month. And we hope you continue to do awesome.
Sorry,
Awesome.
second cat. They're waiting for a second dinner.
Bye, kitties. You're awesome too.